Some athletes live by strict routines. He did not. Guy Lafleur smoked between periods, closed down Crescent Street after midnight, and still skated past everyone. 5 Stanley Cups, 3 scoring titles, 2 Most Valuable Player awards, 1 run of 6 straight seasons with 50 goals and 100 points. This is the Addict who ruled Montreal on the ice and owned the night after the final horn. Stay with us until the end to see the measure of his talent and the habits that made him different, and decide what greatness can look like in hockey for fans in Canada. Guy Lafleur did not dabble. He lived in patterns that repeated night after night. After home games, he slid into a tailored suit, eased a Cadillac onto Crescent Street, and stayed until last call. On the road, he found the nearest bar, shook hands, and gave the crowd what they wanted. Between periods, he reached for a cigarette, not occasionally, but as a ritual that seemed inseparable from the rhythm of his game. It was an unhealthy habit, and he did not stop during his prime years. That is the plain truth. What makes his story difficult to explain is what happened the next morning. Guy Lafleur arrived early. He laced up first. He skated wind sprints until his lungs burned, and then asked for another rep. Teammates saw a forward who could carry the puck from his own zone, cross the blue line under full stride, and release a shot so clean that goalies reacted a beat late. Coaches saw that even after a sleepless night, he still read plays faster than most, and still attacked the slot with confidence. Montreal, in the 1970s, gave this pattern a stage. Crescent Street was the city's bright artery of nightlife, a row of rooms where music, conversation, and reputation mixed until sunrise. Guy Lafleur was its most recognizable regular, the hockey star who closed the bar and then outraced defensemen in the evening. In 1979, he leaned into the era with a disco record called Lafleur, speaking through basic skills while a beat rolled underneath. It was playful, it was strange, and it fit the moment. None of this is an endorsement. It is a portrait of a superstar whose addictions were daily and visible, yet whose preparation remained relentless. The contradiction became his signature. He could smoke between periods, meet fans after midnight, and still be the fastest player on the ice 16 hours later. In a league defined by systems and structure, Guy Lafleur proved that instinct and repetition, even when anchored to flawed habits, could still bend games to his will. We go back to where Guy Lafleur began. He was born on 20 September 1951 in Thurso, Quebec, a small mill town where winter felt like a second school. His father, Réjean, built a backyard rink that turned into a daily workshop. Before sunrise and after dusk, he skated, handled the puck, and fired wrist shots until the ice turned rough. Local coaches noticed a smooth stride, fast hands, and a release that needed little backlift. At the Quebec International Pee Wee Tournament, he piled up goals and drew scouts from across the province. The pattern formed early: arrive first, stay late, repeat. He watched the Montreal Forum on television and studied the poise of Jean Beliveau and the attacking instincts that later defined modern rush hockey. By his teens, he joined the Quebec Remparts and stepped into packed arenas that felt like a dress rehearsal for the National Hockey League. The joy never looked forced. It was a forward who loved the puck on his blade and the blue line in front of him. From Thurso's backyard ice to the brightest lights, Guy Lafleur built habits that would carry him through pressure, expectation, and the long season that never really ends. The rise accelerated in Quebec City. As a teenager with the Quebec Remparts in the QMJHL, Guy Lafleur turned packed rinks into rehearsals for greatness. In the 1970 to 1971 season, he scored 130 goals and 209 points in 62 games, numbers that felt unreal at major junior level. The Remparts attacked in waves, and he drove every surge, collecting pucks low, bursting through the neutral zone, crossing the blue line in full stride, and finishing with a quick wrist shot that hardly needed a backswing. Crowds arrived early just to feel the rush when he touched the puck. His presence changed the temperature of every game. Defenders backed off. Teammates played faster. Coaches built plans around his instinct to carry from end to end and to crash the slot at the right second. The nickname Le Démon Blond fit the vision that fans saw under the lights, a blonde streak that could bend a knight to his will. In the spring of 1971, he led the Remparts to the Memorial Cup, the national title that stamped him as the most electric junior player in Canada. By the end of that run, Montreal did not see a prospect. Montreal saw its next showpiece forward and a future built for the biggest stage. Montreal did not wait for luck. General manager Sam Pollock set a plan in motion long before draft day. He moved assets to acquire California's first-round pick for 1971 and then shifted Ralph Backstrom to Los Angeles so the Kings could climb the standings while the Golden Seals slid to the bottom. When the season ended, the path was clear. Montreal owned the first overall pick in the richest prospect year Quebec had seen in a generation. The debate narrowed to two names, Marcel Dion or Guy Lafleur. The club chose the forward from Thurso, whose junior numbers made crowds lean forward. The decision carried a city's expectations. Montreal had just won in 1971. The sweater carried history, and the Forum demanded an immediate return. Guy Lafleur walked into a room filled with champions and learned faster than any development plan could outline. He took number 10 and turned it into a signature. Reporters watched every stride. Fans measured every shift. The comparison to Dion became a weekly drumbeat. Pressure sharpened his habits. He arrived early and skated until the legs of defensemen felt heavy just thinking about the next game. The message was simple. Montreal had paid a premium in planning, not in rhetoric. Now the first overall pick would have to turn a strategy into points, wins, and seasons that mattered in May. The first 3 seasons tested patience. Guy Lafleur scored 29 goals, then 28, then 21, totals that would please most young forwards but felt light for a first overall pick in Montreal. He was quiet off the ice, wore a helmet in an era when few stars did, and carried comparisons to Marcel Dion every time the Canadiens played. The pressure built with each shift at the Forum. The answer arrived in the autumn of 1974. Guy Lafleur took the ice without a helmet and played as if a weight had lifted. The change did not create his talent, it revealed it. He attacked with clean edges and long strides, demanded the puck earlier in the breakout, crossed the blue line under full speed, and released a wrist shot that needed almost no backswing. Defenders lost their gaps. Goalies lost the first read. By spring, he had 53 goals and 119 points. That season opened a run never seen before in the National Hockey League. 6 straight years with at least 50 goals and 100 points. The style became unmistakable, carry from deep, slice through the neutral zone, hit the slot at the right second, finish with confidence. Montreal did not just keep a prospect. Montreal gained a force who turned pressure into rhythm and made the Forum rise before the puck left his blade. From 1976 through 1979, Guy Lafleur drove a dynasty with speed, nerve, and a feel for the moment. He captured the Art Ross Trophy in 1976, 1977, and 1978, won the Hart Memorial Trophy in 1977 and 1978, and lifted the Conn Smythe Trophy in 1977. Montreal finished each spring with the Stanley Cup, 4 straight crowns that ran through his blade. The regular season peaks were historic. In 1976 to 1977, he set a Montreal Canadiens record with 136 points. In the next season, he reached 60 goals, matching the club's high. The 6-year run of 50 goals and 100 points stayed intact as the benchmark for pace and production. His line with Steve Shutt and Jacques Lemaire blended roles with clarity. Lemaire read the ice and moved the puck early. Shutt found soft ice at the back post. Guy Lafleur carried through the neutral zone, crossed the blue line under full speed, and attacked the slot with a quick release that needed almost no wind-up. The rhythm repeated, and opponents still struggled to stop it. On the power play, he worked the right side between the circle and the top of the zone, ready for a cross-seam pass or a step inside for a wrist shot. Montreal entered with control, rotated, and let him decide the moment to strike. The playoffs confirmed the standard. He led all scorers and goals in 1976, piled points in 1977 and 1978, and saved the most famous burst for spring of 1979. A bench minor against Boston opened a door, Montreal trailed late, Guy Lafleur took a return pass in stride on the right side and drilled the tying goal. The Forum stood, the series flipped into overtime, and the cup returned. This was the blueprint for a right wing at full command. Pace, patience, and conviction turned pressure into inevitability. The calendar turned and the cost of the pace arrived. On March 24, 1981, Guy Lafleur fell asleep at the wheel of a Cadillac and struck a roadside fence. A metal post cut past his right ear and the car was destroyed. He walked away, but something subtle changed. Hamstring pulls, a groin strain, and bouts of illness chipped at his stride. The half-step that once opened ice began to close. Montreal was changing too. Veterans moved on, Scotty Bowman was gone, and a tighter defense-first approach took hold. Shifts shortened, power play touches declined. Jacques Lemaire, once his center, now asked for structure that muted improvisation. Guy Lafleur still read plays faster than most, but the freedom that powered his rushes met systems that prized caution. The Forum still rose for the name, yet nights felt heavier. Frustration grew as minutes slipped and influence narrowed. The dynasty had ended. The reality of the 80s pressed in, setting the stage for a decision that would shock a hockey city. The frustration of reduced minutes and a shrinking role reached a breaking point. Early in 1985, after 2 goals in 19 games, Guy Lafleur chose to walk away at age 33. Montreal retired number 10 on February 16 of that year, as the Forum saluted the right wing who had carried Springs across a decade. 3 years later, the Hall of Fame called, but the ice still called louder. He trained, tested his legs, and said yes when New York offered a path back. With the Rangers in 1988 to 1989, he scored 18 goals and 27 assists in 67 games. The defining night came in Montreal, where he returned as a visitor and scored twice with an assist. The building rose, and the ovation did not fade. It was a reminder that greatness outlives uniforms. Next, he signed with the Quebec Nordiques and brought his game home. Over 2 seasons, he produced 62 points in 98 games and set a standard for a young core. Joe Sakic watched a master read the neutral zone and attack the slot with timing instead of raw pace. The standings did not change the meaning. Guy Lafleur proved that joy, touch, and conviction can survive time, and that a legend can choose his own ending. Guy Lafleur left numbers that still frame a standard: 5 Stanley Cups, 560 goals, 793 assists, 1,353 points in the National Hockey League. With Montreal, he remains the all-time leader in assists and points, a mark built on stride, nerve, and the cleanest wrist shot of his era. He was named among the 100 greatest players in the league's centennial season. Later in life, he faced heart and lung surgeries, stepped away from cigarettes, and kept showing up for fans. On April 2022, he passed at age 70. Montreal opened the Bell Center for public visitation, and Quebec held a national funeral, a city and a province saying thank you to a right wing who made the Forum rise as one. The chant stays in the air. Guy, Guy, Guy. Do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and check out more great hockey stories right here on the channel. Your support truly means a lot to us. Thank you for watching.